All right, YouTube, this is Detroit's HPTV. Come to our Detroit, back with another video. I don't know if you guys followed my video yesterday when I was talking about the coincidences between what happened in Vegas with the Cybertruck exploding and what happened in New Orleans, Louisiana with that attack. Every day, there's new revelations and new speculations about whether they were coincidences, collusion. Did these two guys work together? Because there's a lot of things that they had in common, with both of them being at Fort Bragg, both of them being deployed to Afghanistan, both of them using Toro electric trucks. And there's probably even more coincidences. But the story is getting more and more mysterious, almost like you watching a Jason Bourne movie or some type of Rambo type movie, because the guy from the Cybertruck in Vegas was a Green Beret. He was special forces. You know what I mean? Very skilled military man. And come to find out, he left a manifesto, which is very interesting if you think about what he says in it, because he's talking about the origin of the drones that people have been seeing and worried about, where the drones come from. He's talking about government secrecy and collusion with foreign powers. He's almost being like a military whistleblower. And then there was other facts that came out when you seen the police talking in Vegas. They said that he unalived himself and then detonated the truck. And the sheriff was saying he's unwilling to actually say that the guy in the truck is the guy whose ID it was, who's the soldier, because he was burned beyond recognition. So he couldn't positively ID him at the time, which is interesting, because burned beyond recognition, unalive before the detonation of the truck, a Green Beret, on leave from Germany, is very, very mysterious. It's a lot of moving parts to this. And, you know, we got to get past going into 2025, allowing the government to say we're using conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theory, that terminology was used by the government to discredit people who would be putting thoughts and ideas and patterns together to come up with conclusions about what was going on in the world and in government. So they would say that's a conspiracy theory, or the Illuminati is a conspiracy theory, or some global powers working together to have global dominance is conspiracy theory. Even though we see hints and moving parts of things like that. You know, we see governments toppled. We see the creation of NATO, NAFTA. We see government working in collusion with other governments to control the masses of the people. So everything may not just be a theory. It may be reasonable deduction of the facts. Now, this Green Beret wrote this manifesto saying a lot. But in light of the other facts that we know so far, is it really that far-fetched? And then, you know, you have the guy from Bourbon Street, Louisiana, radicalized. You know what I mean? That reeks of Manchurian candidate type situation. You know, a lot of people been in the comments talking about MK Ultra. It's a lot of theories. and ideas about what's going on. But I want you to watch this video and see what's been said and what's being revealed now as we move further away from the incident. And you know, they say hindsight is always 2020. You know, why did the guy use a Cybertruck, a Tesla? Could it, you know, we was thinking maybe he wanted to send a message to Elon, or maybe the security and the strength of that truck is made in such a way that it could be detonated without actually harming a lot of people. Statement or terrorist attack, we don't know. But I know this about this story. The censorship is real. The shadow banning is real. So I'm going to ask you as a subscriber, and if you're a channel member, hit the like button and leave a comment, because they really are suppressing information at this point. You know, we don't know how long they will continue to be in a position to where they can suppress our voices the way they are, considering that mainstream media is free falling. Nobody trusts mainstream media because they have a narrative. And they know the independent people, such as the YouTubers and the bloggers and the vloggers, they're giving their take and just showing you what they've discovered, what's coming out, without giving you a slant. So without further ado, I want you to listen to this story, because in the beginning it's going to talk about Trump and why they sentenced Donald Trump. You know what I mean? What is this big thing that they want to do about censoring Donald Trump about things that wouldn't even be a crime? You wouldn't even be talking about it if it wasn't for Trump. But the left is determined to make him a convicted felon, as if the American people will reject him because they call him a felon. But if you know anything about this country, didn't King George consider George Washington a felon? Benjamin Franklin, a felon? Thomas Jefferson, a felon? John Quincy Adams, a felon? John Hancock, a felon? Wasn't this country founded by outlaws who declared their independence from a monarchy under penalty of losing their lives just for signing the Declaration of Independence? You know, the patriots understand this type of thing. But I think that on the left, they're so far from being American in their minds and in their ideology, because they're so busy race baiting and having LGBTQ flags and messing with gender and all these other debaucherous things that have separated them psychologically from God and country. So we're living in, like the Bible say, perilous times. So without further ado, I want to get off into this clip. It's for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary. And this is the First Amendment. Check out this.
Of falsifying business records.
This is done just before the inauguration. And the timing, by the way, is notable.
Paul, are any of the other cases against Trump moving forward at all, or is that it?
That's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much the ball game. Jake?
In this video today, we have two bombshell stories. One is Trump's legal case, where the judge is requiring Trump to show up for sentencing on January 10th. And then secondly, there are new details that are chilling about the Las Vegas bomber and his manifesto, which we're going to react to. But let's start with the shocking detail from the judge about Trump's legal case. So here's what the article is saying, reported by the New York Times. Judge upholds Trump's conviction, but signals no jail time. The New York judge who oversaw President-elect Donald J. Trump's hush money trial scheduled his sentencing for January 10th. Mr. Trump is expected to appeal his conviction, of course. And guys, this is 10 days before the inauguration. So, I mean, we are living in times we've never seen before. But just bottom line up front, number one, the conviction is still going to be upheld. which means the only way it could probably be vacated is it'd have to go up to the Supreme Court, I believe, at this time, because he's already appealed it. And correct me if I'm wrong. You guys can put that in the comment section there. But secondly, he gets no jail time. So you get convicted, but you don't have to do any time. So what's the point of the conviction, right? But let's go ahead and continue to read. The judge, Juan M. Merchant, indicated that he favored a so-called unconditional discharge. That's exactly what it meant when he said that Trump's not going to serve any jail time. It's the legal term is unconditional discharge. Mr. Trump's sentence, a rare and lenient alternative to jail or probation. He set a sentencing date of January 10th and ordered Mr. Trump to appear either in person or virtually. An unconditional discharge would cement Mr. Trump's status as a felon just weeks before his inauguration. He would be the first to carry that dubious designation into the presidency, even as it would water down the consequences for his crimes, or it would actually water down the word felon, because again, when the Democrats spend all these resources trying to prosecute Trump, during that entire time, what were they doing? They became the very thing they accused him of being. That's number one. And number two, they end up watering down these terms that are supposed to mean something. Now, remember, they called his supporters fascists, racists, and Hitler sympathizers, right? Nazis, right? I mean, that's what they're saying. These terms become watered down because in the way that...
And I've often wondered, with him saying that Trump was like Hitler and his supporters were like fascists, how did that make the Jewish community feel, considering what they went through in Germany? To even compare someone that you just don't like to the travesty or injustices under fascism and Hitler, doesn't it diminish what actually happened and diminish the truth? Because it seems like the left has a tendency to really use words and misnomers and kind of alter the meaning of things to sway the narrative. They have gotten to the point that they think that the American public is really dumb.
They're using them. Now, we all know this game, which happened during BLM, right? The word racism doesn't mean anything anymore because that's what everything means now, right? Unlike a conditional discharge, which allows defendants to walk free if they meet certain requirements, such as maintaining employment or paying restitution, an unconditional discharge would come without strings attached. That sentencing, Justin Merchant wrote in an 18-page decision, appears to be the most viable solution to ensure finality and allow defendant to pursue his appellate options. Okay, so there you go. There's a confirmation that he still would be able to appeal this, I believe, to the Supreme Court. I think that's the only way he could truly get this conviction thrown out. Now, you know we're living in crazy times because hear this quote. This is in him addressing when he actually denied the request from Trump to throw out the actual conviction. Together, Justice Merchant's two rulings picked apart Mr. Trump's legal maneuvers, upholding the first criminal conviction of an American president and denying him the opportunity to clear his record before returning to the White House. Quote, to dismiss the indictment and set aside the jury verdict will not serve the concerns set forth by the Supreme Court in its handful of cases addressing presidential immunity, nor would it serve the rule of law. Also, on the contrary, such decision would undermine the rule of law in measurable ways. The sanctity of a jury verdict was a bedrock principle in our nation's jurisprudence. Now, can someone tell him to send that exact message to the current president of the United States? Because a jury found Hunter Biden completely guilty. There was no way around it. Now, you could argue that the felony charge wasn't worth it, but he was guilty of a crime, and a jury of his peers found him guilty. So where's the rule of law in that situation when the president granted him a pardon? And not just any pardon. We know it dates all the way back 10 years ago. Now, here's a statement from Trump's communication director, Stephen Chung. He says this, today's order by the deeply conflicted acting Justice Merchant in the Manhattan DA witch hunt is a direct violation of the Supreme Court's immunity decision and other longstanding jurisprudence. This lawless case should have never been brought, and the Constitution demands that it be immediately dismissed. President Trump must be allowed to continue the presidential transition process and to execute the vital duties of the presidency, unobstructed by the remains of this or any remnants of the witch hunts. There should be no sentencing, and President Trump will continue fighting against these hoaxes until they are all dead. Now, let me show you this clip from Jake Tapper on CNN, where he sounds a little defeated because he's hoping that there's something else that they can get Trump on, and he gets the answer that all of the Democrats don't want to hear.
Paula, are any of the other cases against Trump moving forward at all, or is that it?
That's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much the ball game. Jake, this is the one thing we were waiting for. Just to review, the two federal cases brought by special counsel Jack Smith have both been dismissed because, of course, when Trump gets into the White House, he will have the ability to have his attorney general dismiss those cases, dismiss Jack Smith. So Jack Smith getting out ahead of that, though we still are waiting for Smith's final report detailing many of the findings in his investigation. Down in Georgia, of course, recently a court disqualified District Attorney Fani Willis from that case. That will be appealed, but if that is upheld, they would need to find another prosecutor, another office that would want to use all of its resources to pursue that case that will be likely on ice for the next 4 years, as you cannot bring a state case against a sitting president. So even though earlier this year, Trump was facing 4 criminal cases, at this point, he is a convicted felon. He was convicted on those 34 counts of falsifying business records in Manhattan last year. That's outside the scope of his pardon power. But aside from being a convicted felon, he has faced no other trials, no other consequences.
All right, Paula Reed, thanks so much.
Okay, so when you hear that someone got 34 felony counts for falsifying business records, okay, just think about that for a second. 34 felony counts for business records, right? That already sounds something crazy. You've never heard of that, okay? But understand this. No prison sentence is a great thing because clearly this reinforces the narrative that these legal challenges are politically motivated rather than actually based on true justice, which we all know that. However,
and they're so obvious that they used what they call legal warfare, or they weaponize the judicial system because they are very satisfied with just being able to slander him and just say he's a felon. He's a felon. What does that mean? I mean, he who is without sin cast the first stone. I'm quite sure everyone has did something wrong. And a lot of us have also did things illegal, but they weaponized the judicial system against him, and now they are so fearful that he's going to do the same. You know what I mean? These people is terrible in how they apply justice and they use terminologies is hypocritical. But I want you to keep watching because I want you to see what actually was said by this Green Beret who detonated this Cybertruck. Keep watching.
you know the media is going to continue to spin this. They're going to continue to remind people that Trump, as president-elect, was found guilty in a criminal case and framing it as a stain on his legacy and or leadership. Now, the one person who actually has a stain on their legacy is President Biden, because the Las Vegas Sheriff's Office has come out and has offered new details about the Vegas bomber in regards to that Cybertruck. And the fact that this is happening in 2024 and he was a Green Beret, I think that says a lot about the incompetence of the current leadership. Well, let's go ahead and hear what they had to say with their newest update.
But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application. He seemed to have two letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things, which we will do our best to release very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stun with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took.
Now, the deeper you start to actually investigate this story with whatever information we can access at this time, and I think right now, a lot of the information that really makes you think is on the Sean Ryan show, which I'm going to show you guys a clip here in a second. But the fact of the matter is this. I'm of the opinion at this point that if a Green Beret actually woke up one day and carried this out, one or two things has to be true. Number one, he's of the mindset of releasing some top secret information that the government does not want out there. So what are they going to do? They're going to take him out. Okay, we've seen that time and time again. Or two, he is so far gone that he went crazy. Now, none of the information I've heard up to this point makes me believe number two is a reality, given the way that the Cybertruck was armed and obviously the way that it was carried out. So I'm not too sure about that. But let's go ahead and take a listen to this gentleman on the Sean Ryan show talk about the manifesto that was released.
So this email came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, in case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones, he puts that in quotes, he says drones, is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history.
Are you listening to this? We're telling you what the drones are. I mean, think about what this Green Beret is saying, and then what has been said thus far. His getting to a destination point, but then they saying he unalived himself in his truck before detonating. You know, it's a lot going on with this story.
The U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operation Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate.
Yeah, so one of the first biggest takeaways from this manifesto is that he is alleging that the government has these special technology drones that will be deployed by the deep state in order to take Trump out. That's really where he was leading to. Now, whether I believe that will happen, that's a whole nother thing. I really don't. But listen, the increased activity of drones on the East Coast, clearly there was something going on. And he's alluding to what he believes is what's going on. And so this is very interesting. Let's continue to hear what else he had to say, in particular to that Cybertruck.
U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive V-bid. Let me pause right there for a second. So he says a massive V-bid. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a V-bid was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
You fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice, and he goes, you said that word V-bid. Can you tell me what that is? For your audience, a V-bid, for your audience who has not been in the GWAT for the last 20 years, a V-bid is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower. So, backing up, he says, I am armed and have a massive V-bid. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me.
So V-bid, right? That's what the Cybertruck is. It's a massive car bomb that he has in order to protect himself from government officials. That's the way that I heard it. That's the way that I see it. Now, some people believe this guy's insane, and it's a result of our government, our country, not really being there for the veterans who have seen the worst from our country and others. And of course, if you're a Green Beret, you definitely have seen the worst, right? Now, I just played a short snippet of that entire episode. I'm going to link it in the description below. Go watch it for yourself. It's definitely worth every single second. It's only 45 minutes, by the way, but it really makes you think in the end. Okay, so the real question here is this. Did this Green Beret truly commit suicide in a public way to draw attention to what our government is doing? I mean, because that's the only way you could really read this manifesto. Now, of course, not everybody believes this theory and what Sean Ryan was alluding to on his podcast. For example, Jack Pozo wrote this, spoke with an Army friend who served with Matthew in Afghanistan, says the email story about war crimes in 2019 is totally made up, that they didn't even have strike authority like he's talking about. And then he also agreed to this post exactly. The email was sent using Pronto Mail, which offers 100% anonymity, and the bona fides used could easily be gathered. Question everything. Now get this, things get even weirder, okay? Because Sean Ryan posted this. My family and I are disappearing for a few days. My account will be active, but it will not be me behind the wheel. What we are about to release is mind-boggling and will raise a lot of questions. All media requests need to go to my producer. Now, this is before, I believe, he dropped that podcast that we just showed you the clips of. So, I mean, I find that to be interesting. And one more element here that really makes you feel like, man, I just don't know what's going on here because this is crazy. It's the idea that Sean Ryan and his guests suggested on the show that he actually might have survived. I know, right? Listen to this.
So this is one of his selling points. It's bulletproof. We even saw Joe Rogan shoot an arrow at it and wasn't able to puncture this thing. So he loads up a Tesla knowing that it's going to, not explode like he wants it to with fireworks and a bunch of other junk when he can make a car bomb that's going to level this place. Here's what I think. So the PAO, the Army PAO, is saying that the body inside the cab did not match the DNA of his child. All right. We also know that there was no, they said he was shot by a Desert Eagle. We know that there was no signature when it rolled up. So nobody shot themselves when it rolled up to it. You would have seen a large signature. Mr. Guns and Gear, he's on X. He goes into this a lot in depth. He's a firearms expert and he talks about this. There's no signature. So this is what happens. You get a Tesla because you know it can drive itself up to the hotel, the Trump Tower. You put a body in it, roll it up. It's already burned up. Or it's already shot, excuse me. You don't want to kill anybody because that's not the message you're trying to send. You're not trying to level the tower or kill a bunch of people. So you load it up with fireworks and a bunch of junk to send a message. And we know that his signal number or his signal safety number changed. That can't be done unless you're inside that signal account. And a lot of people conjecture was the FBI inside his signal account, whatever else. But what if he accidentally changed his safety number, goofed up there? He rolled a body up in a Tesla specifically because a Tesla can drive itself up to the tower and did what he did to send a message to expose his stuff. And he's still alive out there somewhere.
Yeah, so there's a lot there to chew on. And obviously, as more comes out, we'll react to it as it happens. But just my initial thoughts about all of this is, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's only two scenarios. Number one, it's exactly what we believe to be happening. Maybe the details may be off, but the end result is he's really trying to send a message about how corrupt and weak our government is. And they were obviously surveilling him and they were planning to take him out or silence him. It wouldn't be the first time, so that's not really out there. Or secondly, he was manic. He went insane, made up stuff in his head to try to carry this out. Wanted to make sure that people were not hurt in the process. To what end? If we're going with that scenario, I don't know. And the one thing that really makes me question everything is this fact that the body was burned without recognition to pieces. But the Army ID, the CAT card, was visibly able to be read. Okay, got it. I mean, I don't get that point, but fine. Anyway, this leads me to my question. I'd love for you guys to answer in the comment section below. Which scenario do you think is more likely? That he's trying to send a message about how corrupt, how far gone and weak our leadership is in the United States of America, or two, he's manic, insane, confused, and made up some story in his head and carried it out. Which one do you believe that would be more likely. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are about all of this in the comment section below. Now, of course, this has just been a day filled with bombshells, right? Number one,
I'm going to end on that. Shout out to Divide Darkins. And I want to elaborate on what he was ending with, because that stood out to me, is that they said he was burned beyond recognition, but his ID wasn't burned. He had an Apple Watch, an iPhone. And then he was unalive before it actually detonated. I don't know. I'm like him. What do you think? But I know this. You can't trust mainstream media, because we know that they are a complete apparatus of the Democratic Party. You know. And the censorship and the misinformation that's out here at this point is like never before. So again, I'm gonna ask you to like and share and comment on this video, because even though they've been censoring all through the election cycle, at this point, they are almost suppressing stories and suppressing information. You know what I mean? And they want to keep the people unaware and blinded and distracted. And we can't afford to do that. We have to be vigilant. We have to pay attention. Drones, immigrants, lawfare, you name it. Everything is going on. These are perilous times. So that's all I got for you this Saturday. Santa to you out of Detroit. This is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Support the nonprofit, Detroit's Black Thought and Action Collective. The Cash App is in the channel description. As always, salute to all the patriots and keep your head on the swivel. Peace.